The humble monk. Takumi awoke before the sun, as he did every morning. After washing up quietly, so as not to disturb his sleeping brothers, he stepped outside into the pre-dawn chill. The moon was just dipping below the horizon, giving way to the first hints of light. Takumi paused to take in the stillness. The only sounds were a soft breeze rustling the trees and the distant gurgle of the creek. These tranquil moments before the day began were precious to him. With mindful steps, Takumi walked to the garden shed to retrieve his tools. He selected a rake and small broom, then headed down the winding path that led through the temple grounds. Mindfully surveying the path, Takumi began raking up fallen leaves and debris that had gathered over the last day. In long, smooth strokes, he neatened the pebbles bordering the path, taking satisfaction in leaving the walkway clean for wandering monks and visitors. The repetitive work emptied his mind and focused his attention on the present. After raking, Takumi took up his broom and slowly swept the length of the path. He paid close attention to each movement of the broom, cleaning thoroughly but without any hurry. As he reached the end of the path, the sun finally crested the horizon, infusing the sky with hues of orange and pink. Takumi paused a moment to bow deeply to the rising sun, giving thanks for this new day. Then he gathered his tools and headed to the meditation hall. Settling onto his cushion, he straightened his posture and regulated his breathing. As his mind calmed, the chatter of thoughts lessened, leaving a tranquil clarity. When the meditation session ended, Takumi rose mindfully and headed to the kitchen to help prepare the morning porridge. He chopped vegetables in silence, focusing wholly on the task. After the simple meal was finished, Takumi cleaned up in mindfulness, aware of each sensation as he scrubbed the pots. His mornings passed this way in a rhythm of meditation, mindful work, and quiet reflection. When his duties allowed, Takumi would stroll through the monastery grounds, noticing the sights and sounds around him. A bird sang out from a pine tree. Wind rustled through the bamboo grove. A pair of monks walked along the path, deep in discussion. Takumi observed it all, letting each moment unfold without judgment. In the afternoons, Takumi attended Dharma talks and studied ancient sutras, contemplating their wisdom. Or he would help tend the vegetable garden, planting and harvesting vegetables for their meals. No matter the task, he performed it wholeheartedly, without worry of past or future. When evening came, Takumi ate a humble supper in silence, then retired to his small room. After changing into sleeping clothes, he lit a stick of incense at the modest shrine honoring his ancestors. Sitting cross-legged, he followed his breath until his mind became very tranquil and still. Only then did he retire to his thin futon on the floor, drifting quickly into dreamless sleep. So passed Takumi's days, in simplicity and mindfulness. But underneath his outer calm, worry sometimes arose. Was he progressing skillfully enough on his path? Did he serve the temple community to the best of his abilities? Though he tried earnestly to cultivate humility, at times Takumi secretly wondered if he should seek a higher role than his lowly one. One crisp autumn morning, Takumi awoke with these anxieties strongly clouding his mind. As he raked leaves along the path, he brooded over whether he was advancing spiritually or just going through hollow motions. By the time Takumi arrived to sweep the path, frustration was brewing within him, at himself, at his seeming lack of progress after so many years at the monastery. Becoming more vigorous, he scrubbed fiercely at a stubborn patch of dirt, as if trying to scour away his discontent. In his agitation, Takumi did not hear Master Jiro approaching along the path. Suddenly noticing his teacher, Takumi was startled out of his irritation. He bowed low in respect. "You seem troubled this morning, Takumi," Master Jiro observed, studying him. "Tell me, what is weighing on you?" Takumi hesitated, ashamed to admit his petty concerns. But Master Jiro's kind eyes drew the doubts out of him. Takumi confessed his worries. Was he advancing spiritually? Was he worthy of more responsibility? Master Jiro listened thoughtfully before replying. "Do not become preoccupied with such thoughts," he said gently. "Progress on the path is not linear. There are many ebbs and flows. Just as in nature. Any role you have is enough for becoming fully yourself." Placing a weathered hand on Takumi's shoulder, Master Jiro continued. "Stay humble and diligent. Serve others, and your true nature will emerge." With these simple words, Takumi's worries dissolved away, leaving him at peace. After that day, Takumi embraced each task wholeheartedly again, whether sweeping leaves or serving soup to visitors. He offered himself in service of the temple and his fellow monks. There were still occasional flickers of pride or self-doubt. But Takumi observed these dispassionately, letting them pass by unheeded. Seasons came and went, yet Takumi remained steadfast. His sweep rake swished steadily along the paths. His hands planted rows of vegetables and ladled out stew come rain or shine. Behind his humble serenity, Takumi's wisdom deepened each year. One morning, while meditating in the half-light before dawn, Takumi awoke to a profound truth. The only spiritual achievement that mattered was cultivating compassion and equanimity in each moment. All else was illusion. This insight sank deeply into his being. When the time came years later for the aging abbot to retire, there was no question who should succeed him. Takumi guided the temple and its monks with quiet wisdom and care. He served all equally and was never seen without his worn rake and broom nearby, ready to sweep the paths tidy once more. Though Takumi had once agonized over his role, he realized every duty in the temple was worthy if done with a pure heart. By humbly attending to the present rather than worrying after more, Takumi found his purpose and reached understanding. This simple yet profound realization brought him abiding joy and peace. This Zen story conveyed to me the value of living humbly. Not getting caught up in desires for recognition or a feeling of spiritual progress. Takumi's example reminds us to focus on wholeheartedly serving others however we can, rather than being preoccupied with our own advancement. A calm mind that embraces simplicity and mindfulness can find fulfillment in any life activity or role. The story inspires me to stay committed to spiritual practice while relinquishing attachment to goals and keeping compassion for others at the center.